Hey, what is up guys, I'm Exteria, and in this video, we're just going to be talking about the buffs and nerfs to patch 15.3. If you're looking for a meta video, this isn't it. It's just more talking about what are the changes to the patch. Getting right into it, for the system changes on the power-ups, which is basically the fruits. Now fruits will be displayed better now with the different weights, and for those of you that don't know what weights are, say for example you want the fruit Star Student and the weight is 20. This means that you're able to find this fruit more often, but say for example you want to find a different fruit, like for example round 2. Well, it's a weight of 10. So this means you have a less likely to find round 2 for Leona compared to finding Star Student on Leona. So this means that every time you put fruit on Leona, this is more frequent to see. Now that we're having two new fruits, which is max speed and mana rush. And what basically max speed does is you gain attack speed and you permanently gain damage for every 3 takedowns. So this fruit will be really good on, for example, like Ashe, or if you're gonna go even before that, it'll be good on like maybe Gnar or any unit that uses attack speed. It'll be pretty good on them. And the second fruit, which is mana rush, which I don't know they took out, which is start combat with full mana. I was kind of wondering why I never saw this fruit, and that kind of makes sense now. But essentially, yes, the weights are different. So it used to be 0 for both, meaning you will never be able to find them. But now max speed is 10, while mana rush is 5. So this means that max speed, you probably see it 50% of the time, and then mana rush is probably like 25% of the time. Now getting into the prismatic orbs, which I've been seeing more often lately, and this change is basically for the prismatic orb drop that you get on creep round from wolves or raptors. There is an orb that gives you a lot of gold, but now they're changing that one specifically to 10 gold and a radiant lucky item chest, because sometimes some people hit an artifact anvil, or they probably hit a radiant item selector. So this means that they're basically more ahead of you because they have better items and you just have a lot of gold. So it kind of feels bad sometimes to have a lot of gold, since usually by raptors you should be capped at level 8 already, trying to hit level 9. And yes, this does help you push to hit level 9, but then the issue is you have way less power than the other people because they have better items. On to 4-starring units. Now 4-star units gain just flat bonus 0 HP. They don't gain any more extra just for starring them up. The reason why this change is actually necessary is because of 2 reasons. For one, it's the augment worth the wait, because this allows you to 4-star a unit around like stage 5ish. But the other reasoning, and probably the main reason why they want to change it, is this augment specifically, which is protagonist, and this augment allows you to gain a hero augment of a 1-cost variant, and you're able to 4-star them later down the line. So that's part of the reason why they had to change it, because this augment is just too overpowered. Instead of nerfing the augment itself, they just did that. Now on to the unnecessary change, which is, to me personally, it's kind of whatever. The Armory pop-up lockout timer. Basically stuff like when you see Crystal Gambit or picking a fruit, the timer goes down even faster. So instead of being at like 40 seconds long, it's probably going to be the same amount of time to pick an item from like an item anvil or something, which is like 20 seconds. Which is, in all honesty, doesn't really matter of a change for me, but I mean, more power to, right? Now then, for the traits or synergy changes, which there's so much yapping here, which I'm not gonna read because I'm lazy. For Crystal Gambit, it's basically a buff because they nerfed it a bit too hard. Now you can probably lose streak pretty well, because before I felt like lose streaking with Crystal Gambit on patch 15.2D was kind of useless. Last time I had 5 Crystal Gambit, I did a double down 3 times, and I was still under 20 gold cash out somehow when I was on a 10 loss streak. I feel like it's kind of necessary for the buff a little bit, and they're nerfing the Crystal Gambit damage by a lot. So if you want to play for 7 Crystal Gambit, it's not even worth it. I would just say just play Crystal Gambit just to tempo with extra little bit of econ that you can get. Just keep cashing out every 3 times, or maybe the loss streak might be pretty good now, but you just cash out and just pivot out of Crystal Gambit. Now onto mech. Essentially they nerfed it, but overall who cares? Onto 3 mech specifically. Overall it is a nerf, but who cares, because it's just a free +1 unit. Essentially they just nerfed the scaling HP for 3 mech, and they buff the combination core healing, which I'm gonna assume is the health data gates total for having a certain amount of upgrades on the board. So if every mech unit is level 2, then it's gonna have more HP, and they buffed it overall. Luchador was really OP overall as a +1 splash trait, and now they're finally nerfing it a little bit, and thank god, because this thing is actually really OP. And they're also taking away when Luchador jumps, basically when it loses HP and it jumps away to gain health back, it no longer cleanses. So this means that it's not like Edge of Night, where if you put a burn on the unit and they jump away, it takes away all the debuffs that they had. So therefore, they're able to get out for free and come back in for free. But now, if they're burning all the time with like some sort of anti-heal, they jump out, they're still anti-healed. So this means that they don't heal as much when they jump away either. So this is a really good nerf overall for Luchador, since Luchador was too OP in my opinion. And now looking at it, Boner Kog'Maw might be really good now, since the monster XP per stage bonus that you get is slightly increased. So therefore you're able to hit level 30 pretty fast now than usual. And I know a lot of people love Smolder because they keep asking me doing a Smolder guide, which I was too lazy to make, and I'll make it eventually, hopefully. The next trait is Star Guardian for the Ari bonus specifically, and her bonus is you gain mana over time, and they're gonna buff it even harder, so you gain even more mana in the span of 2 seconds. So instead of getting 3 mana in 2 seconds, now we get 5. And this means it's not just for Ari only, it works for every Star Guardian unit. So if those of you guys are confused, that's how OP is gonna be later. And onto the Wraith proc damage, meaning like the zap from the Wraith synergy itself, they're gonna buff it a lot throughout all levels of Wraith. So having 2, 4, or 6 Wraith, you're gonna do a lot more damage now. They also did more changes to the mech augments specifically, and this is something that most of us would already know, but if you don't know how the mech augments work, you're supposed to play it on Gold and Gallia, basically where you get all gold augments, because you should be able to get I'll be the legs and I'll be the arms with also I'll be the head. And there's a gold augment version of it. There's also a prismatic version of it. So if you get into a game that could be gold, prismatic, then you could get a prismatic, I'll be the head one. And there's a lot of changes to the augments that they did, but I feel like it's not important, since most of the time if you want to gain LP, you don't click this augment. Unless this change for whatever reason makes it to where it's way easier to get now, then if that's the case, you should keep clicking on this augment. Other than that, the other system changes they did was Star Guardian mana for the threshold to get the trait prismatic. Before, you had to spend around 20,000 mana in order to cash out, but now is 18,500 mana to cash out for the Star Guardian. And in all honesty, I feel like this is way too easy, because this used to be like this on PBE, and most of the time I was able to cash out around this mana point. So as we see here with the theme, Star Guardian is going to be pretty OP overall. Same thing with Battle Academia. The threshold, instead of 175 points to get it prismatic, now it's going to be 160. And this part's not too important, just as long as you see numbers go up, that's all you need to know. And my bad for not explaining this part about mech. If you get all 3 augments, you basically win the game. Now for the more exciting part, where we talk about what they buff and nerf about different units. And the first ones we're going to talk about here is the 1 cost section. For Neferi's shield, for those of you that didn't know, when she casts her ability, she gains a shield, and they nerfed it for level 1 and 2, so therefore she gets less shield around that range. But level 3 is still the same with 150. And Syndra is one of the best early game openers, and she's also pretty OP late game, since the whole Rising Chaos into level 8. They nerf all her AP overall levels 1, 2, and 3. And that's basically about it for 1 cost. Now onto the 2 cost units, and there's a lot of yapping here which I don't care about. Mundo is getting another nerf again. So every time he casts his ability, he gains HP, and they're nerfing it throughout all levels. For Gangplank, his ability got buffed, so now his Glock is gonna hit even harder again. But a good change to him hitting harder is he gives you less gold, so therefore he has a less chance of dropping gold after a kill. And the question is, will Gangplank reroll be a thing again? Who knows? It could be, and if it does, I'm going to abuse it. Now this is a really good change of life. So when Jin shoots his 4th shot, for whatever reason, after the unit dies, it just disappears. But now, if the target dies, it'll just redirect to a different unit mid-flight, since for whatever reason, Jin's projectile speed is super slow. And they also need to do this with Callista, because I did have a game where Callista threw her spear, and mid-animation the target died, so the spear disappeared. So hopefully they can fix that too, maybe. Now then, for Kubuko, when you have 4 Mentor on the board, so it's not the base Kubuko, is his Mentor ability. His shield overall got nerfed from level 2 and 3, since 4 Mentor reroll Kubuko is very strong. And they also need to nerf his slam damage, which scales off his HP, because he was hitting like a truck on top of that, so they nerfed it overall. And his regular HP ratio overall also got nerfed a little bit. So basically, the Mentor version of Kubuko is just nerf flat out overall from every part of his ability and kit. And in Zaya's case, she got really good buff here. She gains way more damage now, so Zaya reroll could be a potential thing to play. Now then, onto the 3 costs. There's a lot of yapping here which I don't care about. Besides this part, we hecking love 10s. But yeah, moving on. For Caitlyn overall, they're just nerfing her because she hits too hard. So finally, now she can't really, hopefully, one-shot you anymore. the unit probably might live with 1 HP. And the new tech that I will show right here real quick is basically a Mentor Senna build, and is actually pretty good. Since they're buffing her, this could be a potential board to play. Now, I'm not going to go into detail in this video about it, but what I will say is the damages overall is looking pretty good for a buff. And Smolder's damage got nerfed a little bit, so meaning maybe Kog'Maw might be the better play here over Smolder, since they did buff monsters in general so they get more XP. And Yasuo's base form got a buff, which is kind of interesting because they nerfed the Mentor version. So does this mean that you want to play regular base Yasuo instead of playing Mentor Yasuo? That I don't know, since Mentor Yasuo does CC a unit compared to base Yasuo. Base Yasuo just sits there and keeps slashing, but maybe Yasuo's reroll could be a potential thing later too, who knows? But yeah, they nerfed his AP ratio, which doesn't really matter too much for the base version, but they buffed the AD ratio, which is the important part. And other 3 cost units that they also tweaked a little bit is Ari 3-star. Her damage is increased a little bit, so it might be worth it to 3-star Ari now. And Viego also got buffed overall as a 3-star. And this might be a potential reroll comp, and there is an up-and-coming Viego comp that is the same with the Ashe board with Colossal Udyr, but instead of making Ashe to carry, you just make Viego to carry instead. Just reroll at level 7 till you 3-star Viego and Udyr, and then just play that. Now then onto the 4 cost units, and we're gonna ignore all this yapping. Jinx overall, her ability got buff, so therefore probably gonna hit like a truck now, since that rocket already hits hard already. And I feel like this is like the PvE version, which is actually pretty good, because before you were able to play Bastion snipers, but since Star Guardian is looking pretty good, might as well just play Vertical Star Guardian, and hopefully she one-shots everything. And Karma overall got a nerf. Her ability actually hits a lot weaker now, since 6 Sword Karma was a bit too strong. They had to nerf her level 2 damage by like almost 125 AP, which is kind of a lot. But I still think she'll be playable, but it's just not a winnable comp at level 8 anymore. And look for Gwen 2 to probably win the game. Raz's ability damage finally got a buff since he was kind of too useless for level 1 and level 2, so it's actually kind of nice to see. And his Mentor version also got a buff as well overall, level 1 and 2, which is actually pretty good for him since playing Rise both ways was pretty bad. So it's looking like playing the Mentor Rise board with Senna reroll is looking pretty good. And Samira, apparently she had a bug. They fixed it to where it gives her her proper Omni Vamp she gets when she spins, which would kind of make sense why I feel like mine Samira never heals, because it probably was bugged the whole time. But yeah, other than that, Samira, when she like does her flip and shoot a bullet, it got nerfed, so it doesn't hit as hard. And same when she spins around in a circle, it also got nerfed as well overall. So yeah, Samira is a little bit weaker now. And Yuumi, this part doesn't really matter. In all honesty, true damage is true damage in my opinion. But they nerfed Yuumi's base true damage by like 2%, which in all honesty doesn't really look much. So she'll still be playable overall compared to Samira, which is a pretty big nerf. Other 4 cost changes they did is 3 stars to the 4 cost, which in all honesty doesn't really matter, because in the end, there's still 3-star 4 costs. But it is necessary to buff most of them here, since I know some people actually lost with 3-star Poppy and 3-star Rise, so they needed to get buffed since people lost with them before. But the 3-star J4 buff on his ability, kind of surprising that they buffed it. Now he probably might nuke someone. Now onto the 5 cost changes, and they made it to where Lee Sin, his Executioner form, for those that don't know, Lee Sin has 3 different stats you can choose, which is Executioner, Duelist, or Juggernaut. 80% of the time is Juggernaut Lee Sin, unless you're playing Ashe, then sometimes it's Duelist. But the only times you would play Lee Sin Executioner is unless you're playing like Katarina, or maybe a Kali for the reason on this patch though. But yeah, besides the point, his Executioner stance is buffed a little bit, so this means that he hits even harder now. And his Juggernaut form also got a buff, which is kind of surprising because it's actually too good, so I don't know why they buffed it so he can keep casting overall, since his mana pool is a lot smaller now, because max mana pool was 60, but now his max mana pool is 50, and it still costs the same amount of mana to even get to that cast, which is like 30 mana to cast to the max cap. But in the long run, he'll be casting a little bit more since the max cap is lower. And they also buffed the damage of the Juggernaut version, which is the primary target. Basically the first unit that he hits gets hit even harder, which is kind of surprising that they buffed it since he's too good as a Juggernaut. And the most useless unit in the game is also getting another buff, which on honesty, not gonna help. And one of the most OP 5 cost units back in the day is getting a buff again now. So now he's probably playable. You could probably fast 9 and play Yone as a carry now. And yes, I'm purposely saying Yone just to trick you guys. Now onto the augment changes. And there's a lot of yapping here which I don't care about. Aim for the top. Before, it was always you gain 1 component for every 3 wins. But now they also added an additional thing on top of that where your first win grants you the component, which is actually really good, since this means you can power spike with that component pretty well. And aim for the top in general is good for both win streaking and lose streaking, because even if you lose, you still gain a bunch of XP. And if you win, you can gain components, which is basically this augment here, if you guys didn't know how it looked like. But yeah, if you did lose, you gain like 2 XP, which is actually kind of nice. And then for the augment dazzling display, the damage reduction is nerfed, which is basically this augment here for Sorks. Thieving Shadows, the AD and AP per proc is buff, so it does a little bit more damage. It's basically this augment, which is for Wraith. Instead of getting 5 attack damage and 5 ability power, now it's 6. Diamond Hands is completely removed, which I didn't even know we even had this augment. Essentially, it's a Crystal Gambit augment, which I actually never saw, but apparently this is removed from the game, and I never knew we had this, because I've never seen it. Game plan, the health got nerfed, which I have no idea why, since no one ever plays this augment. It's basically the Strategist augment, where you have basically like the Socialite, like marked on the board, and units on top of that gain extra stats, which is like 200 HP and extra damage amp, and any Strategist unit will gain more amps on top of that. But yeah, the HP part got nerfed by 150, which I have no idea why. No one ever played it before, so I don't know why. The Mundo Hero augment got buffed since it was actually a bit too weak. And it's actually this augment where you make Mundo into a ranged unit. Howling Gale got a huge buff, so it costs 50 less mana now. So instead of costing you 600 gold to shoot the tornado, now it's 550, which is basically this augment here where it summons a tornado after you use now 550 mana instead of 600. Isekai, which is the most broken augment in the game, no longer gives you a Hodge now, which is any of the Echo augments. Now you don't get a Hodge, which is kind of nice because it's kind of crazy that you get a free unit that doesn't cost a slot and you get a free item on top of that for that unit. So good thing that they took away the item for him at least. Schoolyard Justice, which surprisingly got a buff, I would say overall. I actually don't understand this, if this is good or because your base attack speed is 0.6 now, because it was 0.8, but you also gain 30% attack speed, which I don't understand how that works. But yes, essentially is this augment, which is Guaranteed Hero augment. Can't say if this is good. Yeah, just let me know in the comment section down below if this is a buff or nerf, because I have no idea. I can't do the math in my head for this. And then Starfall, which is the Nico Hero augment, got a buff overall because she's actually kind of useless. And I'm assuming this one is actually a lot better since it's 50% attack speed compared to 30 on Garen. So the base used to be 0.8, but now it's 0.6, and now you gain plus 50% attack speed overall, which is Nico's hero augment here. And Sunfireborn, the duration is a lot longer now, so this means that units will be burned instead of 12 seconds, now it's 15 seconds overall. So basically it's just free anti-heal for half the round. And the other hero augment, which is Malphite's Tectonic Titan, now the base attack speed went from 0.8 to now 0.55, but he also gains 50% attack speed, which in all honesty, I don't know the math if this is good or not. I don't know why we can't just have a base attack speed and not this part. This makes no sense to me. So let me know in the comment section down below as well if this is a buff or nerf. And it's basically this augment here, which is Malphite's hero augment. Tiny Team bonus now is even more. And it's the Star Guardian augment where if you field less than 3, then you gain even more bonuses. So instead of being 175, now it's 200. This is good in only the case of playing Xayah reroll, or if you're playing Jinx without playing full Star Guardian. This is also really good for that. And now tournament favorites, the breakpoints from 4 to 7. So basically breakpoint 1, 2, and 3 is the same, but breakpoint 4, 5, 6, and 7 are different. And essentially they're increasing more of the cap. So this means that it's going to be a lot harder to hit those caps now since it costs a lot more, which is this augment here. For every time you hit a certain point of tournament favorites, which is the Soul Fighter augment, you're able to gain resources. That's it for the augments. Now on to the items and radiant items. And there's a lot of yapping here, which I don't really care about. For blue buff, the mana regen is increased. So now maybe building blue buff might be a potential thing to have. Quintu's Rage Blade, the attack speed is nerfed. So now it's a little bit slower. So it's still going to be good overall to have. It's just a little bit slower. And Shojin's attack damage is a little bit less. It used to be 20 PBE, but on live it went to 18. Now it's 15. Since it's one of the best AD items and technically AP items overall. And now for the Radiant items, the Radiant Adaptive Helm got buff overall with the AP and AD ratios. And also the resistance of giving armor and magic resistance also increased. So it went from 60 to 75. For Radiant's blue buff, AD and AP, they nerfed it from 60 to 45, which is a good change since the item was too overpowered. For those of you that never made Radiant blue buff, you're kind of trolling because it's one of the best Radiant items out there. But now since it's a little bit weaker, I don't know if it's worth it still. Radiant Edge Knight probably might be the worst one to take. So if you see it, don't take it unless you need it. But before it used to give you full health, not anymore now. Now it's just basically the same version as the regular Edge Knight, so I don't know what's the point of getting a Radiant one. And they also nerfed the attack speed of it by 10%, and they nerfed the attack damage by 5, And they also nerfed the ability power by 10. So I don't know what's up with Radiant Edge Knight that they had to nerf it, but overall it's a lot weaker now. And for the Radiant Gwynsu's, is also nerfed a little bit by 5 attack speed, which isn't really an issue. It's still one of the best Radiant items overall. And they also nerfed the attack speed per second by a little bit as well, which in the end, like I said, it doesn't matter. It's still good. And then Radiant Infinity Edge, they nerfed the damage by 5, which is okay. It's still a good item overall. And in Radiant Shojin, they nerfed the AD since they nerfed the regular Shojin. They might as well nerf the Radiant version by 5 damage. And the AP is also nerfed as well by 10, which is actually a huge amount. But it's still going to be a really good item overall since it gives you a lot of mana. The damage doesn't really matter too much. It's more that it gives you almost 10 mana per auto. Now then, onto the artifacts. They nerfed Flicker Blades by like 1% less. Wow. What a good nerf, I guess. Don't know if it changes anything because it's still a broken item overall. And this is just a visual thing for the mana Zane, because the mana, if the champion has a low mana pool, it'll just keep regenerating super fast and you can't see it. So now they're just gonna make it to where it's probably seeable now. So this doesn't really matter too much. Seeker's Arm Guard got a little bit of a buff, so therefore it might be a pretty good Gwen or Katarina item. Silver Mirror no longer converts damage into mana, which I didn't know that's what it did. But yeah. Apparently you can't get mad anymore now while getting hit. And they buffed the resistances by 10 because they took away the mana for it. Which, who thought this was a good idea? Are they even playing their own game? This item is too broken on Jace. Now onto the power-up fruits. There's a lot of changes, but I'm just gonna go over the highlighted ones. The ones that are pretty important to know. And basically Artistic KO, which is the Jin's fruit, got nerfed. So this means that he's gonna hit a little bit less now. For this fruit that I can't read the name of, they actually increased the armor pen by a lot. So therefore, if you don't have anything that can break armor, like Even Shroud or Last Whisper, this fruit will be really good on the 80 units, since both of Even Shroud and Last Whisper only ignores armor up to 30%, but now it's up to 40. So this is a really good strong fruit overall. And Colossal, thank God they nerfed it overall because it's too overpowered with Udyr and Lee Sin. This one is the one I never understood for whatever reason. Samira was able to have Fairy Tail, which I have no idea why. And this fruit basically makes it to where every time you cast, you summon a fairy that shoots magic damage, which makes zero sense to me on Samira. I don't know why they even had it on her. And this one is actually pretty important because fan service got a buff. This means that playing Xayah Reroll of Rakan would be very overpowered. And if you're able to get one fan service on either Xayah or Rakan, then you put the fruit on the other one, they'll guarantee to have it no matter what. So this means that if you're playing Xayah Reroll, just go for this fruit no matter what. For Kahuna Huna, it shoots out a missile instead of an empowered auto attack. The reason why they did it is because it's less likely to fire on a dead target, which is actually a pretty interesting change. This one's actually really important. Over 9,000 doesn't give you mana regen as often anymore, because for whatever reason, every time I take this augment, I get like 15 mana regen every time. But that's actually really good because it makes your units cast a lot often. But now it no longer works on PvE rounds, which is a huge nerf because every time I get a Kaisa on stage 1-1, I would instantly just fruit her and hopefully get over 9,000 so I can start stacking in the early game. If you guys didn't do that before, well, you guys missed out on getting free stats. And this one's from Leduc. The reason why they had to change it because of him. Funny enough. Precision makes it to where your unit is capped out at 0.5 attack speed. But if you're able to have Silver Mirror, you're able to make it from 0.5 to 0.7. So this is a really good change for like some weird wacky build. But yeah, this was gaining popularity because Leduc made a video of it. Shadow Clone overall is a lot weaker, and I saw that a lot of people say they don't like Shadow Clone. So for those of you that hate it, they actually nerfed it. So good on you. Pat yourself on the back. And Super Genius no longer offered on stage 2, which is actually pretty good because this means that if you're playing Syndra or Ezreal, this means you don't get it anymore in the early game, which is actually kind of annoying because it does literally nothing in the early game. So good thing they took it out. But yeah, that's basically about it for the fruit section. The rest is just minor tweaks, but the ones I just explained are the most important ones to know. And that's basically about it for patch 15.3. I'm not gonna go over any of these bug fixes because I'm lazy, but if you have any questions about this patch, I'll be down to answer. Just let me know in the comment section down below and I'll try to answer the best of my capabilities. Until then, I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.